attention. The roof of this building is in terrible condition, and all it takes is a major weather incident and this roof will leak or collapse, and this entire clubhouse will be declared off limits. In the pump room, which is just down the hall, it has already been declared off limits, and it's being held up by posts. The repair of the clubhouse is critical, and that in itself will take approximately $250,000. And there are other items in and of the village, things that should have been maintained over the years that have not been. Elevator repair and other things. I'm not going to go into details. But all of these items that desperately need repair and need to be addressed total somewhere in the neighborhood of about $650,000. These must be addressed, and my hope is that the new board will do that. Because of the delinquencies and the foreclosures and the state of the economy, we ran a deficit for 2009. We're going to run a deficit this year and probably in 2011. So it was a recommendation of the committee, and I wholeheartedly agree, that we take a significant chunk of this $2 million and set it aside to finance this deficit for one simple reason. If we don't, we're going to have to assess us, and we're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. Thank goodness we have these funds that we can put aside and pay for this deficit, and we don't have to have a maintenance increase. And the third, it was presented to us that right now, anybody who wants to buy or refinance or just purchasing, anybody who wants to buy a unit right here cannot get financing for various reasons. One of the big reasons is we do not have reserves. So one of the recommendations of the Finance Committee was to take about $400,000, put it into reserves, so when the lenders look, that's one of the things lenders look at. Does any given condo association have reserves? If we put $400,000 and some odd into reserves, the thinking is more and more lenders will lend, and it'll be easier to get mortgages. So bottom line is we need to allocate that $2 million to necessary repairs, to fund our deficits for last year and the next 2 years, and to put some in reserves just for our own well-being.
Excuse me, Michelle, just 1 second. I'm listening to this, and I just want to point out this is somewhat of a little unfair question to the people that are not on the board currently, because they're the ones that have all this information. So I just want you to bear that in mind as we're getting these answers. It's nice to hear Marvin. Yeah, okay, fine. I just wanted to point that out. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. Again, I'm Michelle Tersigny, and as far as the $2 million is concerned, I would have to agree with Marvin in many areas. I definitely feel we should have some type of a reserve. If something happened here, I don't want to see another assessment, and that's exactly what would happen. As far as repairs are concerned, I would want to see all the documentation. I want to have all closed bids. I don't want any kind of hanky-panky going on because in the past I understand that things got repaired and people got kickbacks and all the different rumors I've heard over the 2 years I've been here. I'd want everything sealed. I'd want the best bids. I don't want to have to go through another lawsuit because somebody didn't do the repairs they were supposed to or got paid in advance or any of the things that I've heard over the past few years. So the money has to be handled very, very carefully, and it has to be handled with great, great detail. Every single item that gets repaired or taken care of, wherever that money goes, it has to be ensured to the people that you know where it is, what's being done with it, and not just 9 members of the board directing where that money goes. One of my pet peeves is I would like to be on many committees, but they're all held during the day. I have requested numerous times that committees could meet at 7 in the evening so I could participate or be part of it because I do work. I would love to be on any committee. Even if I don't get elected, I'd still like to be on committees. But again, I need to be there at 7 at night. And I'd give freely every night of the week, 5 days out of the week, for those committees. But my main thing is, I do think we need a reserve. I know that there's repairs that have to be done. I know the last time it rained really hard, we had leaks coming down our hallway. That's not good. Buildings need repairs. The Bordeaux, we were fortunate enough in our building to raise enough money together to do repairs, to fix it, to make it look decent, to make it look much nicer. I'd like to see all the buildings look good. it's a pleasure when I come home in the evening and walk into that lobby and see that it's done. My elevator's driving me crazy. I hear this constantly. It breaks down every other week. That is an issue. There's people that are handicapped, people that need to take the elevator, they can't take the stairs. That is a real big issue. That's a safety factor. As far as the clubhouse is a very important part, but where you live, I would look at the buildings first before I spend the money on the clubhouse personally. The clubhouse is very important, but if your roof is leaking, we need to take care of your roof. If there's a problem with your building right where you're living right now, that would be first, clubhouse would be second, as far as the work would be concerned. But definitely I would want to see, the money spent for what's needed.
Okay, thank you.
As Jerry said, some of us had the benefit of being at the Finance Committee meeting that we had on January 7th to discuss the allocation of funds. And our property manager, Gil Martinez, had provided the committee with a list of what he considered to be the priorities in terms of urgency, and they include elevator repairs. The roof on this building is, will have to be, if we don't do this building's roof, the building will be condemned in a short time, and it also has termites. So there's a certain number of priority issues which were outlined by Gil that we have recommendations that at Tuesday's meeting you will hear the balance of these recommendations, and they're all based on the priorities of what seem to be the most critical issues. But something that might appeal to everyone that we're going to also do is we're recommending that we change all the tables and chairs at the pool because they're pretty badly worn, and that'll make a nice impression for new owners to see some things like that. It's only at about a $5,000 expense, and it'll really make the pool area much more pleasant to spend time there. The part about the reserves is extremely important because, as Marvin said, and I brought this to everyone's attention, that every bank has a questionnaire. The major banks provide, when you apply for a mortgage in a condominium, you have to have a questionnaire filled out by that bank. And two major questions on that questionnaire are, does your condo have reserves? And what is the percentage of delinquent maintenance in your association? Because Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae are the secondary mortgage market buyers of most mortgages, the banks initiate the mortgages, sell it to them. They will not buy mortgages from the major banks if your maintenance is over 15%. Ours is a little over 25%. We need to get that delinquent maintenance down to 15% or less and put the $432,000 minimum partial reserves in place, which guarantees certain the roofs and certain parts of the long-term maintenance have a certain life expectancy. The banks want to see that financial health in your budget. Those two things, property values are not going to increase until we can get bank financing again. It may take several months, but I think it's a priority because when it's cash buyers only, it's going to keep the values down, and unfortunately, because of the foreclosure market ahead of us, there'll be a lot of downside in the next 6 to 12 months. So the best thing we can do is get eligible for mortgage financing from banks because that will immediately begin to raise our values. As far as the rest of the money goes, the one thing I can think of most important in handling that money is transparency. Everybody needs to know what we're doing with that money and make sure we're doing it wisely, fairly, and above board. Other than that, I think you'll hear more about how we're going to spend this money to meet everybody's interests and please as many people as possible. And
okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Michael. Ann?
These three candidates went into more detail than what I said previously. The money is earmarked for repairs and to put some money away. We can't put everything in the repairs. I mean, in the
Reserves.
confused. Anyway, what we really have to do is what they said, the roofs, the windows, the elevators, they have to be taken care of. And that's what we intend doing. If I'm on the board, that's what I would do. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Francis?
I would pretty much just parrot most of what Marvin and Michael said, because I was also part of the Finance Committee meeting. And basically, we have a few problems that are so urgent they cannot be put off. I can understand the sympathy that we should take care of the building groups before the clubhouse, but with this one caveat. The clubhouse amenities are the heart of the condominium, and this is not an alarmist statement. This is a true statement. We are at this very moment in danger of having our clubhouse declared unusable and having it padlocked. The problems with the clubhouse are serious and must be corrected. We have hired an engineer to give us immediately the parameters that are necessary so that we can get bids to have the pump room repaired and eventually the roof. So we can't make that a secondary priority. I think we'd all be devastated if we didn't have the clubhouse and the pools. The other thing is that in addition to major repairs that cannot be put off, such as the elevators, Heidelberg breaks down almost every day. Bordeaux definitely does. When I get in the elevator in Bordeaux, I just pray that I'll get to the third floor real fast because I want to be sure that door opens again. This is not funny, really. It's serious. In addition to that, some of the funds will be used, and I'm sure people will think very frivolously, but it's not. The appearance of our common areas is very important to entice renters to come and live here, and potential owners to come and live here. And we are shabby. We are shabby as we can be. The bumpers for the parking are terrible. Weeds are growing out of them. The lines on the street are almost invisible. Again, this is not an unimportant feature. You know that when things look good, everybody is happier, everybody feels better about it. Since Wilma, we've been so bogged down with other repairs, we've not had a chance to even think about the landscaping and the roadways. And they're in pitiful shape. So that is part of what the funds will be spent for. As far as the reserves are concerned, they are highly desirable. But I want you all to understand that this is not something that the board can do. The question of reserves is for the membership. And that will be presented to the membership when the Finance Committee report comes in. But reserves can only be established by the membership and not by the board. Conserving funds is definitely the board's responsibility. And there is no intention at the present board to just spend. And it is also the intention of the present board to have every contract absolutely in apple pie order, with safeguard features, with proof of insurance, dealing with absolutely above board contractors, and protecting our interest in the best way possible. Thank you.
Often I have an overview of what goes on, so I'll often send, although I may not be the persons involved in committees, suggestions to each committee. And my suggestions to the Finance Committee regarding this $2 million perfectly reflect everyone that you've heard speak. And I see it, number one, I am so happy. I believe we were really, really fortunate and blessed. But I also realize that is over. There's no more to come from citizens. So this is very important to guard and use correctly. At this time, I would think, for our safety and our well-being. And therefore, I agree on three matters. One is that this money needs to go to the immediate list of allocations that we must take care of, because to negate the clubhouse, which is a feature that attracts people here and makes them want to buy and fall in love with this village, is like, to cut off the hand that is feeding you. So sometimes you have to spend, and it's wisdom to spend, because it will bring you more in. So in that sense, we must spend in our elevators, because who will want to move here if the elevators break down and they're not safe? And people, when they come into a place, they register subconsciously all these things that Francis was talking about. Is the place well run? How does it look? What's the general tone of the people there? So those things are very important for our own living and for the general atmosphere. It should be a very good quality level. There's no reason why we can't be, with energy put in the right direction. So those are immediate. We know what they are, and the board will wisely decide which are the priorities and allocate those monies. That's now. The reserve fund, I am most in agreement for the number of reasons mentioned. One, it will lift the way that banks view us. Normally, they like to have $1,000 per unit, which is $832,000, and that constitutes like a partial reserve, and they see you as healthy and desirable and a safe investment. We can do half of that. That's a very good beginning. We just need to start, and this time it's money coming back to us, and we don't need to generate it, ask the people to generate it out of their pocket. So to begin that very good habit and to allocate that money in that way will also not only lift our standing as far as banks and the financial community is concerned, but it will also give us safety. So if something happens, and I want that money safe, I want it, it's not frivolous money, it can only be used for certain purposes by state law, so it wouldn't be in danger of being used wrongly by someone. And so I think that, step 2 is that, the reserve fund. Step 3 for me is as Marvin began to mention, we have shortfall. And we have done some great things this year that need to be acted on and paid attention to, constantly focused on next year to raise our income level. All the wonderful things with the foreclosures we can do to bring money in instead of tapping the people's worn out pocketbook. So we need to focus on all of that and use the tools we have. As owners, we have the power to control things and to find, and we should turn these lemons into lemonade. Use, when people offer things to us, use them wisely and with in a safe structure. And so anyway, with the, to wrap it up, the third part is we do have to make up for our shortfalls, so our budget's in good shape, and at Universal, I think we want to allocate monies to cover, which as Marvin said would come to around $800,000 in total this coming year, and losses we may have, and therefore you will not be assessed, and no, you will not be assessed.
Okay, thank you very much, Linda.
As a new kid on the block, I'm in accord with everything that's been said. And in summation, it would be foolish fiscal policy to purchase foreclosed units.
Okay.
Secondly, the money that came in will probably be allocated, as was said by the very first speaker, to necessary repairs, and very important, to fund reserves so that all our units gain in value. And that is my summation of everything that's been said. I'm against buying foreclosed units, and I'll do everything I can to prevent that from happening.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry you were at a little disadvantage there, but that was a good summary. Yes, exactly, you're right. Very good. All right, this is something that bothers us, and one of the reasons we don't have such good turnout at at meetings. I'm very happy to see the crowd we have here. This is the type of crowd we should have at all of our meetings. So as we mentioned, too many of our board meetings are raucous and antagonistic. What would you suggest that could be done to create a cooperative, professional atmosphere? Sure, yeah, try to, well, we started with Ed before, so we're going to start with, yeah, right. No, we started with Ed. We'll go with Ann. Ann?
How about some anger management classes?
Right on, Ann, right on. Okay, that's a good response. How about,
Anger management classes.
yeah, she recommended anger management classes. Okay. Francis, you're the one that's the most being hit all the time since you're the president. What do you have to say?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do, except that it's highly illegal. But
Don't let that stop you.
as a secondary matter, I would like to go to a pet supply store and buy a quantity of muzzles. And as soon as somebody became disruptive, we would offer them the muzzle, and if they didn't want to wear it, they could leave the room. That would go a long way to curbing some of the raucous and with
Well, stick to things
board
that
board members, and also from the audience. When people from the audience jump up, and begin ranting and raving out of turn. I don't know how we could possibly control it other than having actually having a policeman come in, and as soon as somebody became the least bit disruptive, just have them ejected from the room. On the other hand, sometimes it's wise to just go ahead and let the speaker vent his spleen, and let everybody witness the stupidity and go from there. But I like the muzzle idea very, very much.
Okay, Michelle, what do you have to add to that? You're not on the board, but you're in the audience often.
I would like to see a fine imposed, just like you do in a court of law. If you're out of line, the judge says, quiet, you're going to be fined. If you make every board member sign a form, I'd have to look into the legality of it, make them sign a form, for each time they do it, third strike, you're off, you're out.
Okay. Okay, Linda is dying to say something, okay?
I do like the muzzle idea. And I would go further first. I would get a shock collar.
All right, since we're limited.
I just want to say, we have been dealing with this matter since the people here are not those types to provoke others. We're usually in, the responsive direction. But I have really, really wanted, and I don't know how this is possible, I even built one 2 years ago, a code of conduct, requirements for directors that any board that I've ever been on, other than here, directors have to give, their vision and what they want to do, what their background is, and a commitment of a sort to the community that they will abide by certain codes of conduct. So I have one prepared, and if at any time, I've had it for 2 years, and I think it's good and should be done if it can be done. Other than that, the people, you must be very careful